Welcome to the Gainz, where we talk about all things health and fitness. I'm your host, Leah Messenger. Let's get into it. This podcast is brought to you by Gainz Box, the fittest subscription box. Gainz Box is a quarterly fitness subscription box that has apparel, supplements, and equipment created for the sport of fitness. So something that I know I experienced, but I want to ask you if you experience, is when people think they know you with these parasocial relationships, I think, and then they try to like DM you or comment, and you're commenting back or DMing back, like being friendly and nice, they're taking it the wrong way.
Ew, yeah. Well, not only does it happen, it's happening daily, but I'm finding it harder and harder to pivot through those, like sort of bob and weave through those situations because, look, I mean, you call it a thirst trap, you could call it a information page, you could call it a, like, I don't want to say it's like sex symbol is too big a word because I'm by no means a symbol on a celebrity level, but like that's what you become when you could sort of make these aesthetically pleasing pages of the male body in the male form. I think I do push it in a pretty classy way where it's like, it's not so in your face, it's not like shaking anything, it's not raunchy, it's not sexual, but it leaves some to the imagination where if my shirt's off and I'm in the forest, I mean, dude, some people are going to be attracted to that. And when they are attracted to it, they're going to try to reach out. Now, I try my best to, one, never give the idea, never even give the thought that it might be someone has a chance at starting a sexual relationship with me through the internet. Because as soon as you start doing that with people, and no offense to OnlyFans and stuff like that, but as soon as you start writing that line, you start putting yourself in these pretty precarious positions where you start losing a little bit of your identity and becoming a sexual figure, becoming that's what you are.
And people assume things of you.
Yeah, they do. So. Absolutely. And that's not fair, but they do. And I think I'm a realist. Like, I have nothing against people who have made a living. Shit, if you can make $20,000 a month on OnlyFans, you get your bag. But I can't because it's not gonna resonate with my soul because it's not the way I want to connect with people. It's not because something's wrong with it. It's not because it's like it's evil or wrong, but it's just because it's not gonna feed my soul. It's gonna feel cold. And genuinely, I don't want to meet people on the internet where the whole point is to get to a place where I'm having these sexual relationships because that's not where I am in my life. I'm happy. So, and I'm in a healthy relationship. So that's not what I'm looking for. What I have found is that people like to cherry pick what they want to get from you. And when they don't get it, they're not happy with it. Yeah. So it's like, what I always say is like, if 5 people follow me, 3 dropping off tomorrow. Yeah. Because they're sending that DM. And if they don't get a response in a couple of days, they're out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I didn't like you anyway.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like,
you're not ugly anyway. The first message was, hey, like, raunchy. Yeah. Like, fucking clearly you're down for whatever. And I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm not gonna even open it, or I'm gonna leave it. Even in the first couple words, I can tell sometimes if I don't open it, I'm like, ooh, that was a little out there. But then I won't reply, and then of course I lose that follower. Yeah. But then there are people who have more respect, and there are a lot of people, and let's say those 2 out of 5 who followed you out of good intent, genuinely want to learn more about you, and just want to have a couple real interactions with you. Yeah. Maybe at some point even build a friendship to a place where you can literally deliver help and genuine value to each other as humans, even if it's a blip in time. Yeah. We can get those awesome interactions with people, and those people seem to handle it much better because they didn't put everything on the line in the beginning. Exactly. So they can still find value in you as a person, even if they're just attracted to you. Yeah. But here's the thing. I think we're all scared, especially people in relationships, but people along their journey in life are scared to be attracted to things that they can't have. Yeah. Instead of being attracted to someone or something that maybe isn't available to you, but finding out what that attraction means. What does it mean? Like, if there's a girl out there right now who I stumble on who's got swag, who's got style, who's got like this a raw appeal, and I feel like, damn, that girl's got something that is a very attractive trait, or mannerisms are like really on point, or holds themselves in a professional way, and I like that. Whatever it is, that attraction even though I'm not emotionally available, that attraction is still an important thing to internalize because it speaks a lot about who you are. Mm-hmm. And if we keep turning our faces to things that turn us down, or keep turning our faces to things that we can't have, then we put ourselves in these positions where we don't learn a lot about ourselves then.
That's true.
Because you just keep jumping from these identities of like, I'm attracted to this type of guy. Yeah. Or I'm attracted, this is my type. Yeah. Or this is my type. Instead of like, look, you might not have a type. Raw attraction might just be the fact that the way they present themselves in its entirety of passion and interest is something you need to learn from. So I like to take things from people that bring me in, whether it's a guy, whether it's a girl, whether it's an older, like someone who's out of my age bracket or something, and they're just killing it in their space. Mm-hmm. I like to just listen to what is attracting me to that individual. Yeah. What is it that's like really bringing an interest to me? A lot of men out there, I find it on TikTok all the time. I'm heterosexual. Yeah. But there's a lot of men there's a lot of men who are gay who follow me and genuinely bring a lot of positivity. Mm-hmm. I've never gotten a hate message from a gay man. I've never gotten a mean message from a gay man. It's always been, damn, you're killing it. I know you're not interested in me, but I just want to tell you you're so sexy. Or I just want to tell you you're so attractive. I'm like, damn, dude, thank you. Made my day. Like I feel good about myself. But a lot of men, and that's a great thing to speak on this topic, is a lot of men are scared of that. Yeah. They're scared because their heterosexuality is one thing, but they're possibly having even a friend who like a lot of guys can't admit they might vibrate with somebody in a way where it's like we're on that same frequency because something about us attracted us together as friends, where we're like, I have similar interests as you, or I just like your swag because you make me want to be better. You make me want to try harder. You make me want to clean myself up a little bit and really get my life together. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of us are on a same frequency like that. And although it's not sexual attraction, it's attraction. It's attraction, yeah. It's real attraction. So
not all attraction has to be like sexual attraction, but I don't think people realize that.
People don't realize that. And that's exactly where you started off with, which is like when people take it too far. Yeah. It's because their boundaries are too rigid with what they think people can be.
Friendliness is automatically sexual attraction to a lot of people, and it's like, whoa. No, take a step back. There's so much in between.
Yeah, and that speaks to me as an adult because, I mean, I didn't grow up in a religious home. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up in a home that had a lot of boundaries and rules where it was like you can and can't do things. Mm-hmm. I was taught at a very young age that a big part of puberty and going through the process of growing up as a young man was going to involve sexual interactions. Like it was not frowned upon. Yeah. But there's a very important piece to that story that really was hard for me to come up as a young man in a world where, let's be honest, it was getting more sexualized from the late 90s to what I was late 2000s, 2010s, if anything, but where that started to shift. Mm-hmm. So I found some struggle in those growing pains for sure. And I saw that although kids from a younger age were starting to, whether it was like having sex or at least having interactions with each other on a physical level, or seeing kids dating at a younger age. I mean, like early teens and stuff, kids are boyfriend and girlfriend. And like, as you know, boys growing up and stuff, you're like measuring each other's like sort of processing through manhood as how many sexual interactions they've had and stuff like that starts to happen at that age.
Badge of honor.
Yeah, it was tough for me because I have a hard time being attracted to somebody until I've graduated through the steps of finding out if their mannerisms are a turn on, if their personality, if the intelligence is there, if even sometimes it's just the way somebody holds themselves or carries themselves leads into you no longer being attracted to them. And the problem for me is that the sexual interaction could never, even though it was not a taboo topic in my family. I was not going to be excommunicated to a Catholic school just because I had sex with a girl, but like it was okay. I still wasn't having those interactions because of the fact that at that age, at that time in your life of growing, you are taught that everything is like this immediate return of like people make out, have sex, whatever first, and then they'd start to get to know each other. Yeah. And it was like, it was backwards for me, but it's not because I'm like some traditional person. It's not because I'm against it. It's just because I can't be attracted to somebody on that level at all until I've heard them speak, until I've seen the way they interact with their friends and family, until I see the way they carry themselves in their real world environment. Yeah. And these stale, like forced dates and stuff doesn't work out like that.
Yeah.
So it was taking me much longer, which doesn't work for a young man at that age, because that's not how those interactions are taking place. People aren't getting to know each other like that.
No, not at all.
So
and a lot of times it's just maturity.
Yeah, for sure.
Like they don't want it, or they don't know how, or they don't care enough to get to know each other on that level.
Yeah, so that slowed me down, and that's funny because it didn't slow me down from an emotional perspective, but it slowed me down with my journey through life, because if that's how things are starting for you, you definitely are a little bit behind where everybody else is at when you get to a certain age. Now, once it finally got time where I think I started to realize that I'm the one that's on the outskirts here, who's expecting more out of these sexual interactions. I'm the one who's maybe expectations of how all of these things are going to go in life. Mm-hmm. That was something I came to a realization with. So then when I finally did let myself get into a relationship, I did it the wrong way because I forced it, and I finally was like, you know what, man, stop being so picky, stop being so like, oh, this person's not going to work, that person's not going to work, I'm not really that attracted to that person. Maybe you just need to rip off the Band-Aid. Yeah. And that first relationship that I got in, serious relationship, was late because all the people around me were dating because I didn't give a fuck who I'm interested in or not. I'm just going to find out through trial and error. I didn't do that. So then finally when I forced myself into it, it was the wrong person, sure enough. Yeah. And I just out of sheer will and like spite to who I was as a person, I'm like, I'm going to see this through. I'm not going to give up on this relationship. I'm going to do my absolute best to make it work. And it wasn't one that should have worked. Yeah. And if I would have just stayed true to myself in the beginning, which was, hey, if you're not really that attracted to the person, don't force it. I would have never gotten myself into that fucking situation. Yeah. But not being a quitter and not giving up on somebody became my identity. And I'm like, I'm going to see this relationship through. And then it becomes much longer than it ever should have been. And then you're at me, and it's, relationships failure is never one person's fault. It's always the fault of two people. Yeah. But I will say that from my perspective, I'm more than willing to say that how long the relationship lasted and the fact that I stayed in one I wasn't even happy with, that's on me. Yeah. Because I knew throughout the whole relationship it wasn't right, but I quieted and silenced that voice throughout just because I wasn't a quitter and I wasn't going to give up on somebody. Yeah. But that's no reason to be in a relationship at all. No, that's definitely not the right reason. Yeah.
So something that I've noticed a lot across your social media pages is a lot of relationship advice, but I think most people would say that you're a fitness influencer. So why so much relationship advice if you're a fitness influencer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when helping people, when I was a strength coach with athletes, when I've helped everyday people, doesn't matter who I'm trying to get into shape. We're talking fitness. Yeah. The gym, the eating, all that stuff, but the gym is the fitness and everything is like, we're saying 5% of your life. A workout is like 2%, 4% of your day. Exactly. But relationships are everything.
All the time.
They're all your day, all your friends, all your family, how you're functioning, how things are going. And what I've found with people's success, or maybe just their ability to adhere to anything, if your goal is to get fitter, I find it really tough to see people go through bad relationships on their fitness. It's tough on their fitness. And the reason is, for me, at least what I'm seeing is if they're in a bad relationship and they're not working out because they're not happy or not inspired, or the other person doesn't like to work out. They're in a bad relationship, and we've got to address somewhere if the relationship's not healthy, and that's somehow causing and steering you to live an unhealthy life because the relationship isn't good. We need to address the relationship and why you're in it or why it's gotten that bad. We don't need to address the fitness as much. Yeah. The fitness is easy. The problem is that I have all this advice, if I have all this information, I give it to somebody like that, and they're in a bad relationship, and the other person is pulling that lack of motivation, I don't like the word motivation, but you know what I mean, that lack of just passion for something is coming from something much deeper than the great advice I can give about fitness. Yeah. So without me helping these people tease out and iron out their problems with relationships, the fitness influence is going to be weak as fuck, because somebody can come along and give you the best program of all time, the best advice of all time, the best meal plan, the best everything. But if you're not doing it, the fuck does it matter? Yeah. So then we got to address the base of like, how do we do this? Because we all know someone, if they're overweight, can get results from just eating a little cleaner. Yeah. And going for a walk every day. Yeah. So if that can give people improvements, we don't really need that heavily to address the science all the time with a lot of these people, as much as we need to address how unhealthy the relationship side is. So then that also taught me from the other spectrum, which is somebody is in not in a relationship and they're extremely motivated to work out. And that's when they find you, and that's when they're like, I'm reshaping my life. This is all, it's a new me, new year, I'm going to be a queen. It's all about me. Like, this is going to, and look, let's not, beat around the bush here. A lot of my following is obviously female, skewed demographic. It's just what it's come to, which is great because I love helping women too. But the problem is I see that fire and spark to just be a new you immediately disappear as soon as they get comfortable in a relationship that no longer supports the need to help you through sexual selection. And if people are motivating their fitness journey based on how it's going to help them in their dating life, how looking better is going to attract better looking people, how they're trying to build something that will attract more from around them, that's not necessarily an evil or bad thing, but it's also not sustainable. Because then once you remove the stimulus of the need to find a relationship or be sexually attracted to other people by starting a relationship, we just removed the whole motivation behind why you did it.
Maybe it's not the wrong reason, but I don't want to call it the wrong reason, but like that's what I was going to say. It's like one of the wrong reasons to do it, but it's not. But people should be doing fitness and like focusing on that for how it makes them feel, their health, their mental health, their mindset, like mental toughness or whatever other reason other than just sexual selection.
For sure.
But I mean, although that's not like a bad thing, it just, like you said, can be removed very easily.
It can be removed when you find a relationship that's stable, healthy, and you're finding love there. And then you find yourself comfortable, and 5 years down the road, and all of a sudden that stimulus is removed, and you're like, damn, again?
And you see so many people, when they get in relationships, they gain weight.
Oh, for sure.
That's like very common, because you're going out to eat, you're like
you're having fun together, with each other, you're like, wine nights, I get it. I get it. Like, and that's okay, like weight gain, and people need to hear this again so that I'm very clear. Finding reasons to exercise it's never necessarily a bad thing. But I can help people who are exercising before that time comes, where that stimulus is removed, or maybe before they even exit out of their bad relationship. Maybe I can get them starting to working out, and maybe that was part of the problem. Their relationship wasn't working is because they weren't spending time on themselves.
That's common too.
Yeah, it's common. And then they start spending time on themselves, feeling sexy again, feeling good, feeling powerful, and then the relationship starts to flourish.
Exactly.
And they find health together. But those are all welcomed changes that I'm not scared to help people find. But what I am scared to do is not address the foundation, because then we're building this Jenga tower of advice of how to work out better, how to eat healthier, how to do all this stuff. But when that relationship crumbles at the bottom, if that's how they built it on all the fitness stuff, if God forbid the relationship fails, which let's be honest, if you're going to have even 4 or 5 relationships in your life, that means 3 or 4 ain't gonna work.
Exactly.
That means there's gonna be some failure.
There's gonna be the one that works.
And when that foundation crumbles, let's make sure that your health and happiness and well-being isn't contingent upon that foundation of the relationship. That you're still gonna put yourself first no matter what happens in life.
Exactly.
And if we can just separate the two enough to make sure one's not reliant on the other, then we create sustainable people.
Exactly.
So I don't think the relationship advice isn't fitness related. I just think people don't know that it's fitness related.
The foundation of fitness,
I
guess.
For sure.
Mental.
It's in the word
relational
fit.
Fitness.
Sure.
Is that a thing?
Yep. I mean, the word fit itself just means that you're fit for your environment. So
exactly. That's
if
true.
your environment has a relationship, then you need to be fit for that. So
yeah. So in the fitness world, are there any role models that like really made you want to get into it, other than like, sports and like getting into it like in high school age? But did you have any role models? Yeah,
I think the first time, it's a funny story, man. When I was a young kid, my dad and uncle, from where my late father was from a different era, obviously, than me. So his idea of fitness was like Jack LaLanne, Steve Reeves, like Arnold a little bit, even though it was, Arnold's his own guy, but like those were the types of guys. So when I had stuff laying around that was fitness stuff, it was like those classic bodybuilders. And so the idea of the male physique for me was still pretty reasonable. Like, I mean, Steve Reeves was no slump or no joke, but he wasn't like, I mean, anyone listening.
Not a mass monster.
No. People could look up pictures and it's like, hey, that's almost attainable naturally. Almost. I would still argue he probably was on some earlier hormones, but yeah, he was realistically attainable, and I'm not far off his physique now, so it's fun to look back and see that that's what inspired me. But him, Frank Zane, those guys were on covers for me, and I really liked that sharp, classic sort of just presence and aesthetic that a lot of those guys carried. So they got me interested, I guess, from a young age. And as a young kid, you like muscles, that's masculinity, that's manly. So it just kind of instills in you that superhero vibe. And then along the way, I just sports and relationships, and like by relationships, I mean friendships and stuff like that. You build interest, and nobody at that young of an age is going to be too over fixated on just eating and lifting. So of course I got into other stuff, but then like early 20s roll around, and I saw, I think it was around my early 20s when I saw Chris Hemsworth step out in the first Thor movie, I remember, which is ironic because my name is
I was going to say.
Yeah. But it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with just his shape and his build. And it kind of lit a little fire under me again. I was like, man, I like that look. And although I was fucking killing it in the gym already, I was like, I like that shape. There's something about it that just brings like a sense of balance and health and fitness. And also, let's not make no mistake about it, he wasn't in bad shape, but it definitely wasn't the quintessential bodybuilder. He still was lean enough to be a swimsuit, like, physique
but not
kind
like
of guy.
Shredded to the
but
bone.
No, not shredded to the bone. Looked healthy, looked balanced. And I was like, look, and I started to find my love and appreciation for that niche again, and be like, look, I don't need, because I kept having this like building and bubbling sensation of needing to get bigger at some point to make the jump to taking drugs. It was like, at some point, man, if you're gonna take this shit seriously, you gotta start taking testosterone, at least bare minimum, run a base of something and just build some muscle. And that reminded me that if I could just, instead of needing to make the jump to feel verified, if I could actually take a step back and go, dude, what if you just fall in love with a different niche? What if you fall in love with just looking more like your frame and the most badass version of yourself, just the best you can do with what God's given you, then maybe do that. So I started going down that route, and that's where I found my love and passion for it. And then of course, from a more professional perspective, you have to find some rooting in actual science, because all due respect to Chris Hemsworth, but he wasn't a professor at Harvard for physiology, and I was going to school for a master's in physiology, for fuck's sake. So it's like, your role models are going to be more on the educational side. Smart man, Chris. I'm not talking shit, but like, let's just, let's just be honest. If you're in the educational space, then you got to find someone who's also in that space. So I but I kind of through the internet started to fall in love with this guy, John Meadows, and his message, because he was definitely the bodybuilder's bodybuilder. Like, he was the guy for that, but also he had a great sense of balance and respect, and just carried himself with a lot of just pure intent, and I liked him a lot. Now, he's passed now, so rest in peace, John Meadows, but his sort of introduction for me is what connected my education, pulled that in, and then connected my love for bodybuilding, brought them together, and then kind of allowed me to develop as a professional who had interest in both.
Exactly.
Because when I met strength and conditioning coaches in my professional career, most of them scoffed, if not all of them scoffed at the world of bodybuilding.
Really?
Because bodybuilding and strength and conditioning coaches, I was one. So let me be honest, some of the smartest men I've met in my life when it comes to training were in that field. But they're like the accountants of the fitness space. They're brass tacks, no bullshit. Does it work? Does it not work? If it doesn't work, pull it out of the programming and put something there that has a purpose. So strength and conditioning comes from the perspective of definitely the cut and dry. It's like, we're not wasting time in here. This isn't about passion. This isn't about like, you get in that space, and I promise anyone who walks into a strength and conditioning facility, it's shiny, it's beautiful, some of the best facilities in America, but the approach is very direct. You got an hour to work with these athletes, get the most out of them and get them out the door, keep them healthy and happy.
Exactly.
Or keep them healthy and on the field. Honestly, I don't think
and
the happy part.
they don't have to be happy.
They don't have to be happy.
Well.
They just need to make sure they're performing on the field. So that beautiful blend between bodybuilding and my passion for that personally, and then my passion for bringing in real education and applicable, efficacious prescriptions with exercise. Those two things came and sort of met each other inside of me. And that's what made me, I believe, to be a great strength coach, was that I could reach kids on a deeper level than just what they needed for the field.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't as dry as a lot of people were in the field.
Different,
yeah, my approach came from a much more, I don't want to say flavorful because that's kind of a weird word to use in this conversation, but yeah, it came from a more bubbly, sort of fun. I can reach you. I can talk to you about emotional stuff while you're lifting. I can get you excited about this. I can make you fall in love with fitness. If maybe one girl is a soccer player and the coach wants her to be safe on the field, but I just want her to like find a love for what she's doing again, because if she does, maybe she won't hate coming to weights.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll find a love for that, and maybe when sports are over, she'll fall in love with that. So that was my segue into becoming who I was in the professional space of strength and conditioning, which was cool because it's different.
That's cool because you actually like care about who you're coaching, and like I don't know I personally think that not all the coaches really care or like give a shit about their athletes.
Right.
And it's cool.
Not outside of the aspect of them being a good athlete for them.
Exactly. That's the only thing.
Which is your job as a coach, right? It's your job to win. But I didn't feel that.
You want to give more to, or at least that time, give more to your job than just doing your job.
For sure.
You know, and like you said, to make people actually be passionate or like enjoy lifting weights is important, because I think a lot of collegiate athletes finish their, like being an athlete, they graduate, they're like, what the hell do I do now?
Woo! That's a topic we don't want to talk about. Yeah. Huh? That's where people in the NCAA don't want to approach that yet. They're not ready to have that conversation. But I don't give a fuck because I ain't getting paid by them anymore. So,
but they don't know what they're supposed to do. They're so like they are lost. And I know a few of my friends who were athletes their whole life, and then they're like super like feeling super lost. And I think like lifting weights is like a perfect way to like still channel all that energy.
It's a great way.
And I think a lot of people don't think about that, or they just saw weights as like, oh, I don't want to go do that.
Yeah.
So they don't think about it later.
When you do a study, when you publish a study, which let me tell you, ain't easy getting stuff by the IRB, which is like the board who tells you.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not easy to get by the IRB with some stuff. I mean, there's a reason why they're there, and I appreciate them, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know to be, whether it's illegal or just rarely approved, is to monetize or monetarily reward somebody for exercise. So that's sort of my thought process behind why being an athlete and exercising to be an athlete doesn't work, because or doesn't work in the long run.
Yeah.
And I can sort of explain a little deeper what I mean by the IRB not approving that stuff, because it is quite literally not allowed for you to pay people to exercise and then see how long they stick to it. Because what they found is that if you reward somebody, like quite literally reward them with something tangible like that, and then remove that, it will be far less likely to adhere to any exercise regimen for the rest of their fucking life.
Yeah.
Because they're no longer getting that reward. So it's that same like ingraining that I think and literally learned process that happens with a lot of athletes in college, because weights, waking up, practice, all that stuff brings on a lot of stress for them. And it brings on a lot of concern with like, they associate it with, oh, if my numbers are going up in the weight room, then coach is happy. If coach is happy, then I'm better off playing on the field. I'll be a better chance to start. If I'm getting better on a numbers scale, then I'm going to be more regarded as a good athlete at the school.
Yeah.
So they dump a lot of their heart and soul into doing the exercise for that reward. And then when you remove that reward of that sport,
why do I want to do this anymore?
Why do I want to do this anymore?
No motivation.
I don't want to get out of bed anymore to do that. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to play my sports. So you see this rebound effect in a lot of athletes. But that shit is literally not even allowed in the IRB to do with people.
Yeah.
But we're straight doing it with athletes all the time.
That's so interesting.
But and look, it's nobody's fault. You got to work out if you want to perform in a sport.
Of course.
You got to. If you want to avoid injury in a sport, if you want to avoid getting worse at a sport, you're going to have to train. There's going to be some crossover between the weight room and the field. Not a lot, in my personal opinion, which is probably a conversation for a different day, but there's some crossover there. And you got to stay healthy to stay on the field, or on the court, or whatever your sport is. But it's crazy because it's sort of a hump we're never ever really going to be able to get past, because you can't take away the training and then expect athletes to continue to stay healthy. I get that. But at the same time, that little relationship there is quite toxic between those two things. So I think maybe the best thing to do with athletes is to educate them in a way where you're teaching them to fall in love with just the process of exercise separate from their sport.
Yeah.
So I found that my athletes love coming to the gym because of that. In spite of the fact that it was helping their sport, they love to come see me. They love to come ask questions about their body. Most of our conversations were just about their personal goals in life, not so much how it's going to cross over on the field.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you got, so-and-so over here. I don't want to use any names because I have so many popping up in my head from ex-athletes, but you have so-and-so hitting PRs every day and something because they're loving it. So at least while I was there for that 4 years in time where I was a strength coach, at least while I served in that field, I found that connection was valuable. So it is what it is. Maybe it didn't make me the cold and, calculated best strength coach of all time, but I promise you my athletes liked their time with me and are all much more likely to work out when they're done with sports than anybody else is.
Which is more beneficial to them in the long run.
So fuck it. Yeah. Maybe I win. So who knows?
maybe exactly.
Even though my teams at that school didn't win any national championships.
Maybe they win in life long term.
Yeah. Maybe they did. Maybe they will. So we'll see. I guess time will tell, but.
Exactly. So outside of strength and conditioning, when did you realize social media was going to be like a career for you?
Well, I was like we talked about in the beginning, but I was sort of apologizing a lot for having a presence on social media. So I can wrap this up real quick so we aren't talking about my life story today, but grew up without social media because internet connections were not really a thing where I lived. I'm not that old, so I mean, I was born in 91, so it's not like I was raised without internet.
Yeah.
But where I lived, it wasn't really a thing. Cell phones didn't get connection. MySpace was a thing, but I couldn't use it unless I was like a young kid and I was out of the house at someone else's. So how am I going to spend my time? Like, I'm not going to go sit at a library somewhere in a city
just to go on MySpace.
So it's like not really. It wasn't really an efficacious way for me to communicate with my friends. We just communicated in real time.
Yeah.
Then I kind of built my identity around, as people can see, around being like a rural type of guy, country kind of guy, and very rural, but a very country kind of guy. So like, I didn't really jump into the social media space ever. Yeah. And then once I got into, a long-term relationship that didn't work out, once I got out of it, I guess, and didn't work out, it's like, okay, well, I'm in my 20s, never really had social media. Everyone else is doing it. I'm going to start figuring it out.
Yeah.
Well, what I found was I got into the game so late, and I already had friends that I was calling and communicating with all the time. I already had a social circle. I'm not getting social media to make new friends in my 20s.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is. They're like, oh, this is where we talk. This is how we communicate as friends.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw your post. No, I didn't do it as that. I was like, oh, now I'm established as someone who has an education, someone who knows a lot about fitness, someone who has a story to tell about life and has been through some shit, but I've never been on social media.
Yeah.
So it went from like 0 to 100 because instead of being on social media for the social reasons, I started it for like a story to tell.
Yeah.
So the second I jumped on, which is crazy to think I never had Instagram. TikTok is new, so obviously I never had TikTok, but I never had Instagram or Facebook and stuff. And now all of a sudden I do. So it was like, I got all this cool information that people don't know. At least it seems like I wasn't seeing on the internet. I wasn't seeing quality fitness advice. And I had a master's worth of knowledge, and even more so, probably a PhD in classes total taken. I just never actually did a dissertation, but lots of classes I've taken for the subject of exercise physiology. But what I found is one, when I was in my professional realm, social media wasn't respected in the educational space. Yeah. Because it's like, dude, that's Instagram. You don't get good information.
It still
like
isn't.
That. Yeah, it's still not respected.
There's a lot of misinformation, especially with. I mean, I always see my thing is like people who are not certified, have never taken a class, have never done anything, giving fitness advice or posting videos, and their form is horrible, but everyone's following them anyways and doing it. I'm like, you were gonna hurt someone, but
Yeah, like a good example of why it's not respected is like, just because there's so much variability and people don't have the time to fact check or weed through all that stuff, they just take it based on the person's body. But we all know the guy who drives a Lamborghini doesn't know shit about mechanics.
Yeah.
So the person who has a Lamborghini body doesn't necessarily know how they got there.
Exactly.
But we can't just assume they do. But with all that to say, what I'm really trying to say is like, when I was in my professional realm, I didn't talk about social media because I knew the people around me might lose respect for me. So I was scared to say, oh, by the way, I know I work for the NCAA. I'm a Division I strength coach. But guess what? If you just Google my name, chances are it's going to be hundreds of shirtless pictures. People aren't going to be psyched about that. Like, they're not going to be psyched about that. But then in the social media space, I was finding no one wanted to hear me talk about muscle fibers. No one wanted to hear me talk about, myosin heads ratcheting. No one wants to hear me talk about the mammalian target of rapamycin. People get cold, dry, and they're like, that's boring. They don't want a whiteboard person. They want a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
So both spaces weren't really merging for me, yet I lived in both of them.
Yeah.
So then I was just trying to find okay, social media, I'm a fitness influencer. How do I shift how this is going to be a real thing? And I noticed what I was really good at is giving people information, real information that they needed from a reliable source, but in a way where they're not getting more than they need. Because not everybody wants to know about the shit I studied.
Yeah.
They don't want to know about any of the studies I published. Most people don't want to know about cell signaling cascades. They don't want to know how much I know about it. And they certainly don't want to hear me ramble on about it in a way that tries to prove anything to them.
Yeah.
They just want to know, what can I apply to my life that's going to give me results? So I was really good at taking all the information, being their filter and saying, well, yeah, technically fasting does do that to your body, but it don't mean shit if you can't stick to it.
Yeah. That's true.
Technically, eccentrically loading a weight does break down more muscle fiber, but if you move super slow on a lot of exercises, you might not challenge yourself as much with the weight as you would if you just moved at normal speed. So there's a lot of details and information that I had, but I also knew the relatability and applicability and how much it's actually going to help somebody. So I can serve as this sort of liaison to take the information and go, yes, that's worth worrying about, or hey, I know that person told you that. It's technically true in the literature, but it don't matter in your circumstance.
Exactly.
So that was that world, is I was finding that ability to sort of cross those two paths and be everybody's middleman from a reliable source, and not feed them this bullshit where it's like, well, read this study, check it out, I'm right. Well, it's like, yeah, technically you're right.
Okay. Yeah.
But are people going to be able to actually apply it, and isn't even going to matter to them?
Exactly. So you started the Oak app, and when did you get that idea to start it, or when did you realize you could do that for people? Was it social media that kind of drove that?
It's tough. I don't really know how it happened. It happened so quickly. A company reached out to me who is an app builder and just said, hey, the information you have needs to be put in an organized folder. Technically, we know an app's not a folder, but just conceptually.
Yeah.
In a folder where people can sift through your files and get to some of this information in a way that's actually graspable, digestible, and that they can turn it into their actual programs and their actual life. And I was like, great idea. I currently am working to my core. I'm working myself completely dead as a strength coach. Any strength coach out there, shout out to you if you're balancing a healthy home life and strength coaching. I don't know how it's possible, but at least on the Division I level, it's crazy. I can't believe how much we ask of people sometimes. But instead of trying to change the world and say, this isn't fair, I shouldn't be working this hard, I was like, well, then let me take some control over this.
Yeah.
Let me turn this into something where I can genuinely step outside of my box and say, look, if y'all want to live like this, do you.
Do it, yeah.
But I can't. There's no way. I've got too much passion, interest, and love in this world to continue to just check in and check out every day to a place where I'm worked completely dead.
Exactly.
So although it was a badge of honor for a lot of people to work that hard and miss holidays and not go to their kids' birthdays and stuff, I wasn't vibing with it.
No.
It's like, that shit ain't who I am. And look, I'm supposed to represent this image of balance and what's attainable for someone's physique while still living a happy and fun life.
Yeah.
That's what my physique's supposed to represent, because that's who I am. So if I'm not living it, then who the fuck am I? So I was like, let's saddle up. Let's saddle up and make a change. So I dropped the app Oak. It's OHK with a line over the O as a play on words. That oak firewood burns long and sustainable, and you can heat your house for a long time with it. So it's not like a lot of these other fitness fads that are in and out quickly. I want people to find something that just changes their life for the long term. That's where the name came from. And then it was like, yo.
Story. And
it also, the oak firewood thing obviously is like a crossover between my image and who just I am as a man. So it was cool to find that idea. And then right when we put it into practice, people were vibing with it. But in the first couple weeks, it was like, this might not be a job. This might just be another inlet for money.
Yeah.
And then once I really dumped my heart and soul into let's make this fucking app sick. I put programs, people get custom macros, people get therapies and all this great stuff to help them with mini lectures and stuff. Yeah. And it's $15 a month, $8 a month, depending on how people pay for it. And it was this is a great place for me to take the advice from Instagram, the education background, higher education background, and put it into a space where people can actually chew on it.
Exactly. And you're not giving them the information they don't really care about. It's just you're helping them reach their goals without giving them all this excess information.
True. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone reaches out and says, hey, I want to learn about the way this cell signaling cross talks with this one, I'll be like, oh, fuck, let's talk.
Yeah, exactly.
But we could go one-to-one with that. I don't need to be giving that to the world. Because it's just,
masses,
I got nothing to prove, so.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're our first guest. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I don't know how it was me, but I'm psyched.
I know, it's cool though. But tell everyone where they can find you.
Well, I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, so you could just type in my name, Thoren, Thoren Bradley. If you type that in on Instagram, if you type that in on TikTok, you'll find me for sure. And then, if you're interested in hearing more about the app or what I do, the name of the app is Oak. It is on Android or Google Play Store, and it is on iOS, and it's spelled O with a line over it, HK.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You got it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Gainz. Join us weekly for new episodes and special guests. Make sure to head over to thegainzbox.com or Gainzbox on Instagram to get yourself a Gainzbox today.